Today, I'll give you the perfect response you should have when a woman hugs you. Have you ever been hugged by a woman with more warmth than usual, leaving you completely confused and unsure of how to react? In this video, I'll explain 4 types of hugs and how you should respond to never miss an opportunity again. A hug can be much more than just a simple gesture of greeting or affection. In the silent language of connection, it can reveal what a woman truly feels about you. Many times, what seems like a casual act is actually a way to gauge your reaction, an invitation to closeness, or even a subtle way to express interest. The problem is that most men don't recognize these signals, letting valuable moments pass by without realizing it. If a woman feels drawn to you, she might use a hug as a way to test physical closeness. However, if you don't pick up on the signal or react incorrectly, she might assume you're not interested, lack confidence, or simply don't understand social dynamics. A hug is not just a physical act, it's an exchange of energy. The way she approaches, the duration of the contact, the pressure of her embrace, and even how she separates can reveal more than words. That's why it's crucial to interpret these gestures correctly and respond in a way that strengthens the connection. The 4 types of hugs and what they mean. Number 1, the quick and distant hug with pats on the back. James had always been a keen observer of body language, but when it came to reading between the lines of physical interactions, he often second-guessed himself. He had been friends with Lisa for years, casual friends, nothing more. They saw each other occasionally at group gatherings, exchanged polite smiles, and engaged in the usual small talk. But deep down, James couldn't help but wonder if there was ever a chance for something more. He had always found Lisa intriguing, her laughter infectious, her presence warm, but he had never dared to assume she saw him as anything beyond a friendly acquaintance. One evening, at a mutual friend's party, they found themselves standing together, catching up on the months that had passed since they last met. The conversation was pleasant, but nothing out of the ordinary. As the night came to a close, Lisa reached out, offering him a hug before heading out the door. James felt a fleeting sense of excitement. Perhaps this was a sign of growing closeness. But the moment their arms wrapped around each other, his hopes were quickly dampened. The hug was brief, lasting only a second or two. Lisa leaned in slightly, but their torsos barely touched. Before James could fully register the embrace, she gave him 2 light pats on the back, perfunctory, almost mechanical. Then, just as quickly as she had initiated the hug, she stepped away with an easygoing smile. "It was great seeing you, James," she said, before turning to wave at the rest of the group. As James watched her walk away, he let out a small chuckle to himself, shaking his head. That hug told him everything he needed to know. It wasn't warm, lingering, or filled with unspoken emotions. It was the kind of hug given to colleagues, old classmates, or distant relatives, friendly, polite, and completely devoid of romantic subtext. The pats on the back were the final confirmation, a classic move that signaled a lack of deeper attachment, a subtle reinforcement of friendly distance. James took the hint. Lisa liked him, but not in the way he had secretly hoped. And that was okay. Understanding the nuances of body language wasn't about forcing something that wasn't there. It was about recognizing reality and moving forward with clarity. He smiled to himself, exhaled, and turned back to join the rest of the group, realizing that sometimes a hug wasn't a hidden message. It was just a hug. Number 2, the short but firm hug. Nathan, had never put much thought into the way people hugged him until he started noticing the small differences. A hug could be fleeting, warm, distant, or full of meaning, and lately he found himself paying closer attention to the way Emily embraced him. They had been friends for a while, their connection growing stronger with each conversation. Nathan admired Emily's intelligence, the way she laughed at his terrible jokes, and how she always made him feel heard. He wasn't sure if she saw him the same way, but there was something about the way she interacted with him that felt different. One evening, after a long day of work, their group of friends decided to meet for dinner. The atmosphere was relaxed, filled with laughter and easy conversation. As they were leaving, Emily turned to Nathan with a soft smile. "I'll see you later," she said, stepping forward to hug him. The embrace was brief, but there was something about it that stood out. Unlike the casual, distant hugs he had received from others, this one had weight to it. Her arms wrapped around him with a firm yet controlled pressure. Not overly tight, but enough to be felt. It wasn't the kind of hug given in passing, nor was it hesitant. It had intention. For a moment, Nathan considered how different this was from the quick, impersonal hugs he had received before. There were no rushed pats on the back, no awkward pulling away. Instead, there was a quiet sense of familiarity and comfort. Emily lingered just a second longer than necessary, and when they pulled apart, her hands lightly brushed against his arms before she stepped back, looking at him with the same easy smile. That night, as Nathan replayed the moment in his mind, he realized something. A short but firm hug wasn't just about the embrace itself. It was about the unspoken message behind it. It spoke of trust, of comfort, of a bond that went beyond mere acquaintance. It wasn't necessarily a declaration of love, but it was an indication of something deeper, a connection that, if nurtured, had the potential to grow into something more. Nathan smiled to himself, understanding that sometimes the smallest gestures held the most meaning. And maybe, just maybe, Emily's hug was more than just a hug. Number 3, the long and warm hug. Ethan had always believed that hugs were just simple gestures, quick embraces exchanged in greeting or farewell, nothing more. But that belief changed the night he found himself wrapped in Olivia's arms for longer than he expected, in a hug that felt different from any he had known before. They had been friends for years, their bond unshaken by time or distance. Lately, though, something had shifted between them. Their conversations had grown deeper, their silences more comfortable, and the way Olivia looked at him held a softness he couldn't quite decipher. That evening, they had met at their usual cafe, talking about everything and nothing at all. As the night wore on, the city lights flickered around them, and an unspoken understanding hung in the air. When it was time to part ways, Olivia hesitated for a brief second before stepping closer. Ethan expected a quick hug, something casual, something ordinary. But when Olivia wrapped her arms around him, she didn't let go right away. The embrace was warm, lingering, as if she wanted to stay in that moment a little longer. Her body melted into his, and he could feel her heartbeat settle into a calm, steady rhythm. The world around them seemed to quiet, the usual rush of people and cars fading into the background. For the first time, Ethan felt the depth of a hug, not just as a physical act, but as an exchange of emotions. Olivia's touch was gentle, yet firm, her fingers resting lightly on his back, as if to say, "I'm here. I trust you." It was the kind of hug that spoke without words, one that didn't need explanation. When they finally pulled apart, it wasn't abrupt. Olivia's hands lingered on his arms for a moment, and when their eyes met, there was something unspoken between them, something real. Ethan walked away that night with a feeling he couldn't shake. The warmth of Olivia's embrace still lingered, wrapping around him like an invisible thread that connected them even in her absence. It was then that he realized some hugs aren't just hugs. They're silent confessions, quiet admissions of closeness, of care, of something that words might not always capture. And perhaps, just perhaps, that long and warm hug was the beginning of something neither of them had dared to say out loud. Number 4, the intimate hug. It was late, and the world around them had quieted. The soft hum of the city lights flickered in the distance, but in that moment, it felt like they were the only two people in existence. Nathan stood still as Emily took a hesitant step forward. There was something in her eyes, a silent longing, a quiet need. And then, without a word, she closed the space between them and wrapped her arms around him. This was no ordinary hug. There was no rush, no hesitation. It was deep, unguarded, and unspoken emotions flowed through the warmth of their bodies pressed together. Emily rested her head against Nathan's shoulder, her breath slow and steady, as if she was listening to the rhythm of his heartbeat. He felt the delicate weight of her against him, the way she melted into his embrace, as though she had finally found a place where she felt safe. Nathan let out a quiet breath, allowing himself to savor the moment. His hands instinctively traced slow, reassuring circles on her back, pulling her closer, silently telling her that she was exactly where she belonged. The world outside didn't matter. There were no distractions, no expectations, just this raw, intimate connection between them. He could feel the warmth of her skin, the way her fingers gently clung to the fabric of his jacket, as if she didn't want to let go. And truth be told, neither did he. This wasn't just a hug. It was an exchange of something deeper, a confession without words, an acknowledgement of feelings that had long been left unsaid. Time seemed to stretch, yet neither of them moved. There was a pause, a lingering moment where their breathing synced, where the energy between them was almost tangible. When Emily finally pulled back just enough to meet his gaze, her eyes held something vulnerable, something honest. Nathan could see it, the silent invitation, the unspoken question, and in that moment, he understood. The intimate hug had revealed what words had failed to express. It was a bridge between the known and the unknown, between what they had been and what they could become. Without breaking the connection, Nathan brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch lingering. He didn't need to say anything. The warmth between them spoke volumes. Some moments don't need explanations. Some connections don't need words. And some hugs aren't just hugs. They are the beginning of something much more. How to respond to a hug with signs of interest. When a hug carries a deeper meaning, your response should be confident but natural. It's not just about the hug itself, but also about what happens before, during, and after. Pay attention to how she approaches you. Does she lean in comfortably? How long the hug lasts? Does she hold on to you for more than a brief moment? Her reaction when letting go? Does she maintain eye contact, smile, or stay close instead of stepping away immediately? If you recognize signs of interest, a subtle but effective way to strengthen the connection is by adding a small gesture, like a light touch on her back or gently holding her waist. This creates a sense of closeness without being too obvious. The key is to do it naturally, without rushing or making it feel forced. If she responds positively, relaxing into the moment, leaning in slightly or tilting her head toward you, it's a clear indication that she enjoys the closeness and is comfortable with you. Another important detail is observing how she reacts after the hug. Sometimes, the most meaningful moments happen after the hug itself. If she holds your gaze, smiles, or stays near instead of pulling away immediately, these are strong signs that she's interested in deepening the connection. Final thoughts. The next time a woman hugs you, pay close attention to the details. In that silent moment, she may be expressing something she hasn't put into words. Understanding the meaning behind these gestures will help you respond confidently and make the most of every interaction. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.